How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a great day because today I have probably the craziest emo kid story I have ever received to date. I'm not even kidding. So sit back, relax, grab something to eat, grab something to drink, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and let's just jump right into it. We're calling today's subscriber Ty. So anyways, Ty was going off to camp, and this was his first time doing an overnight camp, so he was a little bit nervous, and it was kind of like a wilderness-based overnight camp, but they were mostly in cabins. Ty's parents did it before, and they actually met at this camp, so they were really pushing for Ty to go. But the summer before, he just said that he, wasn't ready and was going to do it the next year. And of course, the next summer rolls around, and Ty's like, "Oh my God, I said that." So sure enough, Ty and his parents ship him off to this camp. Ty's a little bit nervous about it, but they say, "Hey man, it's going to be good for you. Trust me. Like, I know it's scary, but you just got to do it." So anyways, they arrive at the campground and they walk over, Ty and his parents walk over to the person who is signing everyone in. And it's some 25-year-old dude with a big old goofy smile on his face. He's like, "Hey guys, welcome to Camp Awesome." That wasn't actually the name, but we're going to call it Camp Awesome. "Hi there, buddy. What's your name?" He's like, Ty Gooden. And he's like, "Ty, let me see. There you are, buddy. All right, so you're going to be in group B over there." And he points to this group of kids and one counselor or whatever. And Ty turns around to his parents, and his parents are like, "All right, well, we'll see you in 2 weeks." And Ty's like, "Mom, I don't know if I can do this." And Ty and his dad kind of sits down and he's like, "Yo, you got this, buddy. You don't need to worry about it. Trust me, the 2 weeks are going to fly by and you're going to have so much fun, you're not going to want to leave. That's a guarantee from me." And Ty's like, "All right." So Ty walks over and he goes over to group B, and there's a big group of kids, and, the counselor's like, "Hey guys, my name is Ben." Don't worry, he's not the evil guy. "But hi guys, my name is Ben. Welcome to the camp. These are going to be the guys who are in our group. We're going to be in the same cabin together. We're going to do a lot of activities together. You can still meet people in the other groups, but these are going to be the guys you're going to be seeing all the freaking time. So start getting to know each other. Let's go around, do some names." And so they went around and did some names, and Ty was just kind of observing, "All right, well, that person seems kind of cool and whatever. Oh, we have that in common." And then it kind of comes around to this one kid that Ty didn't even realize was there until until he spoke up. And this kid had these long black swooshed hair, right? He wore all black. He had these rock band t-shirts, these big black boots. He had this spiky bracelet necklace type thing. And by the way, if you kind of dress emo, that's totally chill. I don't really care. As long as you don't act like this kid, you're cool in my book. I say this every single time. And this guy was kind of just known as the emo kid, and since I don't want to give him a name because I will forget it and then it'll be very awkward, but we're just going to call him the emo kid from this point on. And Ty didn't think anything negatively. He was just like, "Oh, this guy really does put a lot into the way he dresses, and he definitely dresses with a lot of character." Ty legitimately had no ill will or feelings of just "Ew, this guy's dressing different than me," or anything like that. It was just an observation. And so later on, they have they go to dinner together as a group, and then afterwards they have the welcome to camp ritual, whatever. They all sit around a big campfire, and they're inaugurated in the class of 2015 or whatever. I don't know. This took place a little while ago. But anyways, right, it's finally time for them to go back to their cabins to figure out which bunks they want, etc. like that. So anyways, right, they get back there, and they're just the counselor dude who is their group B counselor, right, who's also sleeping in the cabins with them. He's like, "Well, just to make sure that no one feels left out, we've already assigned bunks to everyone." So he said, "All right, Ty, you're in bunk A." He says, "So-and-so, you're in bunk B. So-and-so, you're in bunk D." And then in bunk D, which they're in kind of quads of 4, or they're in kind of groups of 2, but they're bunk beds, so it's 4. So in Ty's group of 4, the 4th one was the emo kid. So the 4 of them walk over. They go in their bunks. The camp counselor says, "Yo, if you really want, you can talk to your bunkie about being top or bottom. Doesn't really matter. Lol. Doesn't really matter." And so sure enough, Ty and his bunk they didn't really care. Ty was on the bottom. He didn't really care. But anyways, flip over to the emo kid. And the emo kid is with this guy, and we're going to call this guy Benjamin. It's a throwaway name, but Benjamin was his bunk, and the Benjamin is like, "Hey, do you mind if I have the top?" And the emo kid is like, "No, I must have the top. I must keep watch at night. And everyone just kind of went silent in that group of three. They're like, or group of four. They're kind of like, and Benjamin's like, all right, man, that's fine. Bunk's cool with me. He's like, good. You have made a good choice, because I will watch over us at night. I have spoken. And everyone's like, okay, a lot of character in this guy. Funny guy. Anyways, things seem pretty normal until, it's time for them to go to bed. So anyways, they go and they brush their teeth, and then they get into bed, and the camp counselor guy comes around. He's like, all right, group B, section A, or whatever you want me to call you guys. Let's call you the A squad. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun in the next 2 weeks. Just make sure no leaving the camp or no leaving the cabin overnight. Make sure that, you follow any rules that, we ask you to. Be nice and, like fair to everyone, and just, have fun. Anyways, good night, guys. And he walks out of there. And so, the lights are turned off, and they were Ty in his top bunk, and also Benjamin across from him. They were talking for a little bit, and the emo kid didn't really join in. He was just sitting cross-legged, but kind of sitting very stiffly, so he was very much not going to bed. And eventually they were like, all right, I'm tired, good night. And they all kind of go to sleep at that point. And about 20 minutes later, Ty has not fallen asleep because he's still feeling a little weird. He's in a new environment. It's dark or whatever. He's a little bit scared. He's a young kid, whatever. He hears rustling, right? And that's when he hears steps, right? And he realizes that the steps are coming from across from him, and it's coming from the top bunk across from him, meaning the emo kid, is starting to walk down the bunks. He's like, all right, well, there's nothing too weird with that. And that's when he hears, because there's a door next to their cabin, so there's multiple exits from the cabin. He hears the door open, and he watches as the emo kid walks out. So Ty at this point is like, what? So he kind of gets up, and the person above him is completely asleep, but Benjamin, the kid from the side of him, is still awake, and he's like, yo, Benjamin. He's like, yo, what's up? He said, emo kid. Cause I maybe said his actual name, but we're calling him emo kid. He's like, emo kid, he just walked out the door. Benjamin's like, you can't do that. And, Ty's like, dude, but he did. So anyways, they both get up, and they both look out the window, but they're trying to do it stealthily so that they're not caught, right? And they see the emo kid literally just standing there looking into the moon. It is the creepiest, weirdest thing they have ever seen. Because the kid is just literally freaking standing there, bro. He's just standing there observing the night sky. And they're all like, oh my God, dude, that's freaking weird. What is going on right now? And, sure enough, Ty and Benjamin were like, all right, this kid is a little strange. Make sure he doesn't, strangle us to death or something in our sleep. I'm a little freaked out. And that's when the emo kid, out of nowhere, does a 180-degree turn and turns right looking at the window. Ty and Benjamin quickly jump down there, like, oh my God, do you see us? Do you see us? Do you see us? So, Ty starts to look up. He, peeks a little bit into the window and quickly goes down because he sees the emo kid walking towards the window. And he's like, dude, Benjamin, he's walking towards the window. He's like, crawl back to your bunks. So they both crawl out of sight of the window, and they crawl into their bunks, and it's dark enough in the room for them to do this without being super obvious. And they're both in their bunks, and Ty turns around under the sheets, right? And he peeks out, and the emo kid is literally standing right with his nose up against the window looking in. And he's like, oh my God, this kid's insane. Anyways, emo kid walks back in quietly, goes up the stairs again, and sits in the bed and supposedly goes to sleep. Ty doesn't fall asleep for another hour afterwards, but eventually he opens his eyes to the camp counselor being like, Ty, come on. We're going to be late. And Ty's like, oh my God. And everyone else is like, yeah, you slept in, man. Actually, everyone in this bunk besides emo kid slept in. And that's because everyone was so freaked out that they couldn't go back to sleep. But anyways, first day activities. They go outside, and during the day, they don't totally have to stick with their group. They're actually assigned to random groups. However, a lot of people in the random group will be from their group because they're just trying to make friends within the group. So, and they also go to meals together, so lunch or dinner or whatever is together. And so anyways, the first activity of the day is not with the emo kid. It is actually kayak/canoe or whatever, either or, one of those two. And, Ty has a lot of fun. And they go back to dinner or lunch, They go to lunch as a group together. And Ty's, talking about what he was doing, and the counselor kind of went around the table and was like, oh, so Ty, what did you do? And Ty explains, oh, so Benjamin, what did you do? Benjamin explains, oh, so emo kid, what did you do? And he was like, I prayed to the overlord. And they're like, oh, haha, I don't remember that being an activity. Emo kid's like, it's not, it's necessary. And he's like, okay. Anyways, guys, so I'm going to read off the people in your next activity, because the way it worked was at meals. So at breakfast, the camp counselor read off what group everyone else was in for activities. And then at lunch, the camp counselor read off what people would be in for the afternoon activities. And so the camp counselor was like, oh, so Ty, Benjamin, and emo kid, you're all going to be in the group 7 or whatever. And that happened to be like something with like wood tool making or something kind of cool like that. So anyways, after lunch, they all head in that direction. And Ty and Benjamin are like walking together. However, the emo kid, it's not like they were walking away from him, but the emo kid intentionally stands or walks 10 feet behind them, never breaking the distance. Like, they always have 10 feet between them, and the emo kid never breaks it. And he kind of walks weird. He walks very stiffly, yet he's kind of like propped forward at a 30-degree angle. His arms shoot straight down, and he kind of waddles a little bit like a penguin. But it's very intimidating and very weird. And Benjamin kind of whispers like, Ben, I can feel his eyes in the back of my head. Or not Ben, but Ty, I can feel his eyes in the back of my head. Ty's like, dude, Benjamin, I know. So anyways, they get there. And the camp counselor dude is like, hey guys, welcome to woodworking. It's going to be a lot of fun. You can make whatever tools or whatever you want. All I ask is that when you're using this blade, that, I'm there and help you guiding it. And also if you want any, if you want any inspiration or questions, come to me and it's all cool. So anyways, Ty and Benjamin sit down. They're like, oh, let's make wooden knives or something. So they're given a pocket knife and they're taught how to whittle away. It's like, always, you got to face it away from you. Never face it towards you. If I see you guys facing it towards you, I got to revoke your knife privileges. Not trying to be that guy, but it's part of the job. So anyways, right, they look over and they see the emo kid and he's whittling away at the spoon and at the stick. And they're all like, So eventually at the end of class, the end of the activity, they're asked to go around in a circle and say a little bit about what they made and show it off. So Ty's like, all right, well, here's a butter knife and didn't turn out that well. And everyone laughs a little bit. And the camp counselor's like, dude, it's fire. That's your first time. Don't even worry about it. Eventually comes around to the emo kid. And the emo kid is whips out this almost perfectly whittled. This is really professionally well done. And the camp counselor's like, wow, what is that? He's like, this is a wand for my warlock activities. Nobody better cross me now that I have access to my most powerful weapon of a wand. And everyone was like, what? Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment emo down below. That's the secret word of the day. I'll try and heart as many comments as I possibly can that say emo. And then also, if you want to support the channel, watch a bunch of these videos in one sitting. I call it binge watching. So if you're sitting down, maybe playing video games or trying to go to sleep or something like that, watch 10 videos in a row if possible. I know it's a big ask, but if you do so, please leave a comment down below. I'll heart it and even shout you out, as on screen right now, shouting out some people who are supporting the channel and telling me about it. So yeah, thanks to these guys and you guys, and let's get right back to it. So fast forward a couple days into the week, and every single day, the emo kid's been doing weird things. So right now is a Wednesday. For context, they got there on a Sunday night. So this Wednesday night, Benjamin's kind of becoming the side character for Ty. He's becoming pretty close friends. And Ty and Benjamin are kind of talking about the emo kid and being kind of tracking the weird things he's been doing. But tonight is one of the weirdest things he's done. So once again, Ty and Benjamin have been noticing that the emo kid has been going outside every single time, 15 minutes after they go to sleep. So Ty and Benjamin, they both get in bed, and when the lights are turned off, they wait about 15 minutes, and sure enough, the emo kid gets out of bed and walks down the steps. And he walks outside, and he walks to kind of this big forest clearing. So Ty and Benjamin, they both walk over, and they both look up, and they look out of the window. And they're looking out, and they see the emo kid, and normally he just stands there blankly. But this time was different. He was getting to work. They saw the stick that he made in the wands, in like the wand craft whatever class, or the woodsmanship class, and he takes the end of it that isn't pointy, where you do the spell, and he puts it into the dirt because he's standing on a pretty big dirt clearing, and he starts drawing this circle, this very big circle. And Ty looks over at Benjamin and is like, dude, what on earth is going on? Like, what is this kid doing? And Benjamin's like, dude, I have no idea. And they look at it, and he's drawn a complete perfect circle around him. And then he steps out of it. And then he starts making lines within the circle. He goes from the top of it, down, up, down, across, up. He's made a perfect upside down pentagram. And if you don't know, that's basically like a sign of like ship or the something. So at this point, right, Ty and his friend are freaking out. They're like, oh my God, he's trying to like summon something. And sure enough, the emo kid starts like waving his wand around in these weird directions and starts like spinning around in a circle and making these like weird movements. And if TikTok was around, I bet Ty would have been like, bro, is he trying to do a TikTok dance or something? But anyways, Ty and Benjamin are watching as the emo kid, after making the upside down pentagram, just starts waving it around and starts speaking, like, because the window was cracked open a little bit, and they start hearing like some weird okay, maybe it wasn't as goofy as that, but he was kind of talking these like weird tongues or whatever. And that's when they heard the light flick on, not in their room, because they would have seen that. They heard the light flick on in the middle cabin, the middle part of the cabin. That is where the camp counselor lived. He must have heard or must have felt like some kind of disturbance or something, because they see the emo kid grab his wand and sprint out of there, and sprint so quickly he goes to the back room. And that's when like Ty and Benjamin are like, oh my God, he's sprinting here. So they quickly jump into bed and are, you know, when, I don't know if you guys did this, but like when you were up later than you should and your mom is about to run into like open the room, and you just jump into your bed and then you just stay super, super, super still. That was them. Like, it doesn't matter if you're sprawled out in a weird position. You're staying as still as possible. So they jump in, they're super still, and they watch as the door opens and the emo kid runs in and runs up to like the second bunk and just sits in there. And that's when like they see, like, literally 10 seconds after the emo kid gets into his bed, they see the light flicker on. And the camp counselor, who's for cabin B or whatever, walks in and is like, hey, I saw something out there. And you guys go out there? And, like, you know, everyone's pretending to be like, what? Like, they just woke up. The emo kid is really pretending to be like, what? I don't know what's going on, bro. And obviously Ty and Benjamin, you know, they're trying to, like, pretend like they weren't up watching the whole thing. And the kid on the very top of, like, Ty just is still completely asleep. So counselor's like, all right, whatever. He's like, all right, well, remember, it's a punishable offense if you guys leave the cabin during night. Like, you will be forced to go back home, and you don't want to miss the fun retreat we're doing this weekend. And they're all like, all right. They were like, yeah, it wasn't us. I don't know what it is. And that's when the camp counselor is like, what? And he looks outside the window, and that's when he sees it. He's like, stay here. And he goes outside, and they all watch as he walks outside, and he sees like the upside down pentagram like drawn into the circle or whatever, drawn into the dirt. And he's just looking at it. And he takes out like his iPhone 4, because it was like 2015 or whatever, and he takes a photo of it with like flash, takes another photo, steps back, takes another photo, and everyone else pretends to be asleep as they go back in. Next day rolls around, and they're walking to their first activity from breakfast. And Ty and Benjamin happen to be in the same group. And Ty's like, dude, the emo kid's insane. Like, that was ridiculous last night. And Benjamin's like, I've never been more freaked out besides the first night, bro. Like, this kid's insane. And at this point, they start talking about the camping retreat. So I mentioned this like a couple minutes ago when the camp counselor said, you guys don't want to miss the special fun camping retreat we're doing. So they stayed out in cabins. But part of the wilderness camp, whatever, at the very end of it, at the very, like, the last Friday night to Saturday, they hike out kind of farther out into the woods. They bring like camping equipment, and they kind of like camp out like that. So both of like Ty and Benjamin were a little bit worried, because that basically meant that they were going by group, and they were going to be out in the woods in tents by themselves with the creepy emo kid. So anyways, let's just fast forward to that day. It's Friday, and everyone is kind of packing their little bags, and the camp counselor for each group packs their like supply kit, medical supplies, radio, the food that they're going to be eating, and he's like, all right, everyone grab everyone like groups of 2 grab a tent. And so sure enough, people pair up, and Benjamin and Ty are together, and they grab this tent, and they start walking over to the campsite. And Ty and Benjamin was like, dude, I heard that, like, you know, there's only, like, enough tents so that, like, we have to pair up with someone. And he said, I heard that it's random. I heard that we don't get to choose who we pair up with. Ty's like, dude, that's insane. We already have friends. I get in the beginning them assigning us stuff, but, like, we know people now. This is the last day. Like, why would we need to bunk with someone random? And Benjamin's like, dude, I don't know if that's true. That's just what I heard. So eventually they get to the campsite. Anyways, so they get to the campsite, right? And, you know, they set up their kind of like, they sit around a bunch of logs. So they like light a little fire, and they have like baked beans in a can or something. Then they also go out and they kind of like clear the land to put down the tents. They all set up a bunch of tents in the group of 2 that they carried it over in. And Ty at this point is thinking, all right, we're good because I'm going to be with Benjamin because, I mean, we're in groups of 2 already. Why would they need to reassign us groups? And so once again, they were asked back to the campsite, or not the original campsite, but the little campfire they made. It's getting kind of late, and the camp counselor's like, all right, guys, time for me to assign you your bunk mates or your camp tent mates. And Ty in his head is like, no. So Benjamin and so-and-so, so-and-so and so-and-so. And you know when there's like that one guy you don't want to be with or something like that, and like you're being assigned in a list, and you don't hear your name, but you also don't hear his name, and the number of combinations starts getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and you start freaking out. Well, this is what was happening to Ty until he realized that he was doomed before, you know, the words were even said, because the camp counselor went through the entire list, but he didn't say Ty's name or the emo kid's name. And that's when the camp counselor said, Ty and the emo kid, obviously said his real name, but you know what I mean. And Ty was just like, oh, I'm not gonna make it tonight. I'm not gonna survive. I better write some some letters to my mom saying I love you because I'm not making it tonight. Oh my God. And Benjamin is just staring at him and afterwards walks up to him and says, hey, if you need help, we gotta come up with some kind of signal. So Ty's like, okay, I'm gonna I'm just going to run out of there, and I'm going to run over to, no signals, no nothing. I'm running over to your campsite if anything happens. And Benjamin's like, all right, that's totally fine, man. So anyways, Ty goes up to the emo kid, is like, so, looks like we're bunking. And the emo kid is like, interesting. And Ty's like, yeah, man. He's like, well, I guess you're one of my more favorite mortals that I know. And Ty's like, yeah. So they both put down their sleeping bags in this kind of very cramped tent, and Ty's just sitting there like, okay. And they have this kind of light, and it's like one of those battery powered lights, and the emo kid's like, good night, Ty, and turns it off, and Ty's like starts completely freaking out. He's like, okay, I can't see anything, but we're okay. And that's when he hears the emo kid stand up. And Ty's like, no. And the emo kid is standing above him. And he's like, all right, well, maybe I should just accept my destiny. And that's when the emo kid, instead of striking him over there with a rock or something, just leaves. He opens up the camp tent and walks out. And Ty is like, what? So Ty kind of gets up and he looks out and he sees the emo kid. And the emo kid is standing, or is crouching on all fours, and then he starts howling to the full moon. He's like, "Hey!" But it's a really weird howl, and Ty's just like, what? And that's when he hears the kind of the camp counselor who's with us be like, hey, who's that? You're not allowed to be outside your campsite. And you just see the emo kid go, oh, and just sprints towards the tent. So Ty jumps back into his bed, and the emo kid, who's not very coordinated apparently, instead of jumping through the wind, the open flap, jumps right through the tent. So breaks right through the tarp of the tent, cracks the entire thing. The entire thing comes collapsing down, and Ty just has his eyes closed as the entire tent falls on top of him. And that's when you hear all this yelling, and the camp counselor's like, what's going on over here? Are you guys all right? And he just like starts ruffling, rummaging through all the like the rubble and stuff. And Ty starts like getting up, and he pushes the stuff off of him. The camp counselor was like, was that you out there doing those howling noises? He's like, no. And then sure enough, the emo kid is just standing there like, and he says to him like, you wouldn't understand what I was doing. And the camp counselor was like, I told you before that you can't be leaving your tent during the nighttime. Like, after I said goodbye, you were supposed to go to your tent and not leave it. You were out there. And he's like, I was performing a protection ritual. And camp counselor was like, what? I was performing a protection ritual so that everyone would be safe at night from the demons and ghosts of the underworld. Camp counselor was like, what? And at that point, right, they just realized, okay, this is a lost cause. And at this point, the worst thing was that there was nowhere for them to sleep because the camp was completely destroyed, or the tent was completely destroyed. So the camp counselor was like, fine, you two, bring your sleeping bags. You can sleep in my tent. So the three of them are kind of like crushed in there. And eventually the camp counselor is like, all right, you two are in here. I'm going to sleep outside. No shenanigans. So it was the most uncomfortable sleep of Ty's entire life. But eventually, the day is over. He gets up. They start packing up their stuff, and they're walking back to the campsite. And that's when Ty meets up with Benjamin and is like, dude, like, what? Like, you're not going to believe it. And Benjamin's like, I heard a lot of yelling. Are you okay? So Ty tells him the story. He's like, dude, that's insane. So anyways, they get back, and Ty actually had a really good time at the camp, minus the emo kid, like, cringe fest or whatever. Eventually, Ty's parents come to pick him up, and Ty's mom's like, man, you gotta tell me all about it. Like, how was it? Ty's like, it was really good, but it's quite a story. And so for the entire, like, 2-hour car ride back, Ty tells them the entire story, and let me just say,
click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.